What's going on, guys? My name is Brandon, and a lot of you guys that watch this channel, you're beginner welders, you're just starting out into welding, or maybe you haven't quite dipped your foot in the welding pond and you're trying to decide if welding is for you. Well, today we've got some tips and tricks. Whenever you're working in the metal shop, you always need clamps. So today we've got some DIY budget-friendly tips. Let's get going. So not long ago, guys, I built this fixture table, and I'll put a link to it up above. Now, this is built to generally most factory specifications. This is a piece of 1/2-inch plate. These holes are all standardized. They're 5/8 diameter, and they're all spread out 4 inches apart. If you check out that video, I'll show you how I made a jig and a template, because this is an actual awesome way for a DIY fixture table that doesn't cost a whole lot of money. This is actually a piece of scrap plate steel that you guys can pick out anywhere. And then what I've done is I've made my own clamps. So these are some Harbor Freight, I believe they're called F clamps, and these are just hold down your work, and it's that simple. And this is a piece of angle iron with a flat plate on it. That's to hold round stock that you can clamp down to your fixture table. It's important that everything is all at 90 degrees to one another so that you can actually lay out, make a picture frame out of material and weld it all together, and it's all going to be straight and flat without having to do anything special. Well, it's always good to have a selection of clamps. So at Harbor Freight, and that's what these are, at Harbor Freight right now they're having a special $3.99 for these 11-inch locking pliers. I'll show them to you. And that's the deal there. And what we're going to do is we're going to modify these clamps to make a set of clamps that you can use that'll attach right into these mounting holes. So if you guys are looking for a great way to get involved in welding and be able to actually make real precision stuff without going out and spending thousands on a fabrication table, this is a great way to do it. I would say probably somewhere in the neighborhood of picking up this scrap plate and building these clamps. You could do this for probably right about $100. And the one costly thing, and again, if you watch that other video to that link up above, you'll know that I had to use a mag drill to drill these holes. Well, you don't have to go and buy a mag drill to do this. You can go out and rent one. This is just a real good way to have a nice, accurate fabrication table that you guys can weld on, you guys can fab up your stuff on. Just really slick. So, again, I'm all about doing things on a budget and trying to do a good job and making your stuff last, and these, again, fit that theme. So, first thing we got to do is we're going to modify these clamps, and I'm going to show you how we make these fit. Now, what these are called is these are called a shoulder bolt, and I bought these through, I think, eBay. And these are what the shoulder bolts look like. They're not cheap. I can't remember how much they are. They might be, I don't know, $2 or $3 a piece, but that's what it looks like. Again, I'll have a link down in the description for you guys so you guys can check it out. But so what it is, a shoulder bolt is built to a real tight tolerance. So this shoulder right here is just a few thousandths of an inch less than the diameter here. That's what gets these to fit so good. You can see how those fit in there nicely. Well, then what I do is cut off the thread off the end of it, just like that. Then just lightly chamfer it around so it finds the hole real easy. And that's that. So, as slick as that. So what this is going to involve is what we've done here is we've just welded a shoulder bolt onto one of these clamps that we've modified. And if you watch that other video, you'll know how we modified those. It's all pretty simple, and we use some pretty basic tools to do it. What we're going to do now is we are going to mount these clamps onto this shoulder bolt. So let's get going. All right, so one of the first things I got to do is I got to cut off this little piece of threaded piece right here. And I'm going to use this, all kinds of ways we could use this, guys, but I'm going to use this on the portable bandsaw stand that I built. And it's just a real simple setup. It's got an on-off switch. It's got a little receptacle underneath that the portable bandsaw plugs into. Then it just hangs onto the back here with a simple clamp underneath holding it. Pretty simple. If you want to know how I built that, again, I'll have another link to that, but this is going to be the easiest way to build this. But as you can see how that bolt is kind of down at an angle? Well, we don't want to go cutting off the threads at an angle like that. We want to cut it off flat. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to take a piece of scrap metal that I have and just set just a piece of flat bar. Now you can see I could just run this down it and it's nice and flat. So then we'll just run it up there, and I'll just spin it and then just cut it off. It's that simple. Make sure you guys got safety glasses on when you're doing this stuff, because eye injuries are no fun. So there's one down, guys. Now we just got to do the other one. Look how nice and straight that is, guys. Alright, so now the next thing is I'm going to bring that over to my pedestal grinder. Now, this pedestal grinder weighs over 150 pounds. This is something that we built using an old truck wheel. Then we've got some 1/2-inch plate steel bolted to that column right there. I think that's like 3-inch diameter tubing, and that's all filled with sand, so it is super heavy and there's no vibration in this. So check that out, guys. That's all you're trying to achieve. It's just a very, very, very slight bevel. Not much of one, hardly at all. Just enough to make guiding it down into that fixture table hole a lot easier. Now we got these all prepped. Now just make sure that everything is no problem. I wish you guys could feel this, because it's such a nice, snug precision fit that it almost feels like it's like in a vacuum. It just fits really nice. Almost like when you pull them out, it almost is like, feels like suctioned. But yeah, so, and you can see, watch how much little play there is. There's very little play. And that's what you want. That's what keeps them pinched in there. Basically, that's how that clamp works, is that it's just canting it back a little bit, so it's pinching it in there. They don't pull out. They work really good. I use this table all the time, so I can tell you that this works. And by drilling these holes 5/8 and spacing them out 4 inches apart, that keeps it pretty much standard to all the other tables. And if you were to go out and buy store-bought, you know, fixture clamps, they'll bolt right into your table because you've built it 5/8 and you built it standard. So, all right. So enough jabbering. Now we've got to modify these clamps. Now, one of the things to concern ourselves with is we want to make sure that the clamp doesn't hit the table. So I'm kind of thinking I want this like canted up so I can get my hands underneath it. I need to make sure that we cut this low enough so that that can still grab the table. You know what I'm saying? Does that make sense? So what we'll do is we will do a little bit of figuring. I'm going to put you on the tripod, and then we're going to make a little mark on this clamp, and then we're going to match the other one and do it identical. Then we're going to start welding. So probably the best way to visualize this is making sure that this clamp right here is able to clamp down all the way onto the table. So if you welded this piece on like that, obviously it's going to be up too high. You know, that's great maybe if you're welding 6-inch stuff all the time, but you want to be able to clamp this down to itself, to the table. So that's going to involve us making a cut line along this. So I think what I'll do to set this up is when I make my line is make this right here parallel to my work surface, and that'll keep this handle canted up in the air just the way I want it. We'll set a level on it. We'll make the level like that, and we'll draw a horizontal line along the clamp. Now the next thing we're going to do is we got to cut this off. So all I'm going to do is just follow my line right there. Pretty simple. Making sense now, guys? So now that works like this. And now what we'll do is we'll use the piece we just cut off as a template to cut the next one. All right, so here we go again. So now we got them both cut off. This one I cut a little bit closer, you can see, and it's not going to affect anything. It took a little bit of that like rivet area. This one's just below it, but it doesn't really matter. So, and now we've got our shoulder bolts all prepped. Now all we got to do is set up the welder, prep these a little bit more, then we're going to weld these shoulder bolts right onto this like that. Now the next thing you can see is that these have like a black oxide finish on them. So we're going to be welding right on the very top portion of these. So we got to get rid of that. Get rid of that oxide layer. Just put it on the grinder, touch it real quick with a grinder, and that will prep those enough to what we need to do. See that? That's good, just like that. It probably wouldn't be a bad idea to take these labels off too, so we don't end up starting a fire when we start welding. We got everything prepped. Let's go get the welder set up. So for this guys, I'm going to be using my Transsteel 2200. This is an inverter based welder. It can be used on 110 or 220. It'll do MIG, TIG, and stick. And right now I'm using solid wire, 30 thousandths with C25 gas. So what we got to do is turn on our bottle. We're going to turn it on real slow, and you're going to see this little ball jump up. Yeah, so you want to be standing off to the side, because if something should happen and go wrong and the gauge should explode and go blow apart, you don't want to become part of that. So listen when I turn it on. I'm trying to turn it on slow, but you'll hear this ball come up and bang, whack the top of that. Hear that? So open it all the way. Now you can see I've got, what's that, about 1900 psi on the gauge, and turn it on the back. Now it'll start doing its self-test. There we go. So you can set this up in a bunch of ways. You can set this up in millimeters if that's where your region uses the metric system, or you can set it up in thousandths. This is a fully synergic machine, meaning that you set a few parameters. You can either set it by thickness or amperage or wire feed speed. You determine the material that you're using. You just toggle through what you're using for filler metal. Then you toggle over to the filler metal diameter that you're using. We're using 30 thousandths. Then you toggle through to the gas that you're using. Now the great thing about this is it's dual solenoid. So on the back you can have two different inputs. So you could have, like, let's say argon on one and then C25 gas on another, without having to connect and reconnect connections. All you're going to do is just select the gas that you're using and it'll automatically go onto that solenoid valve. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to purge some of the gas out of the line. That's what this is here. And I'm going to hit this button, and then you'll watch this go up. Ready? I'm going to press the button. There you go. I'm at 20 CFH. And I'll press it again to turn it off. And you'll see it bleed down. Now if I forgot, I believe that this times out after 30 seconds. So I'm using solid steel wire. Let's set it for 1/4 inch, because we're going to want some heat in that. Let's pin it. So that's maxed out right there. We got it maxed out on 30 thousandths wire. So with our welder set up, it's time to start welding now. What you want is a nice quality welding helmet, nice set of gloves so you don't burn your hands, nice cotton jacket. Don't weld without a jacket on or with your bare arms exposed. This is nothing fancy. This is just a pair of like Dickies cotton jacket. It works great. It doesn't have to be a specific welding jacket, just something cotton. Particularly cotton, because you don't want it to burn up, and make sure it doesn't have like frayed edges on it, because frayed edges will burn as well. Get yourself a good set of gloves, a respirator, and some eye protection, and you're in business. Let's get welding. Alright, I got the one I want to weld to drop down into the table, and I'm just going to kind of set this on there and center it on that shoulder bolt. And then I'm going to grab a square and just kind of use that so that I know that I'm holding this at least somewhat, 90 degrees to the table. And when everything looks good, go ahead and throw a tack on it. And here's another tip, guys. If you don't want to clean up welding spatter all over your projects or your welding table, just get some regular old spray vegetable oil. It doesn't negatively affect your weld. And just coat the surface area where you're working, and you won't have little BB spatters everywhere. It'll make cleanup so much easier. And what I find works best is don't go out and buy it. Just go up into the kitchen and take it out of your wife's cabinet. And if she asks about it, just, you don't know. You haven't seen it. Make her think that she's losing her mind. That's even better. No, don't do that. Treat her well, guys. If she asks, tell her. But the kitchen's got a lot of good welding supplies in it that one you wouldn't think, Got trays that work good for changing your oil, vegetable oil for spraying down your welding table. Who would have thought? Check that out, guys. Now I just got to weld the backside. Alright, so we got one down, guys. One to go. This is going along really well. And then I'll show you the welds up close, how they look. I'm going to try to match these up, these angles. Well, pretty close to it. That looks about it right there. Like I say, guys, this won't affect your weld at all either. This won't bother anything. But it does make cleanup a lot easier. Nice. There, now I'll bring you in and show you real quick, but if you do get some BBs on your table from welding, all I do is just use like, I don't know, 4-in-1, 6-in-1 tool. It's kind of designed for painting, but I use this for all kinds of stuff welding related. I even use it to chip slag, but especially to clean off little BBs on your pieces or parts or on your table. So I just go over it just like this. And this will get all the loose stuff. Sometimes you get a stubborn BB that you can't get off, and you can just take this and you just hit the end of it with a hammer. But if you do decide to run a grinder on your table, don't dig it in at a 45-degree angle like that. You're going to make your table all messed up and wavy after a while. Use it flat. Just run your grinder across it, trying to keep it as flat as you can. Preferably using like a cup wheel, like a cup abrasive grinder. And then just run it over your table, go one direction, then go the other, and kind of always alternate. Yeah, you do that and you'll have a nice, flat, straight table for a long time. There it is. This will be nice and strong. You can see how they just fit in the table. And we'll try them out here in a second. Still pretty hot. So you can see how I got just a little BB right there. I don't know if you can see it or not, but that's what that little 6-in-1 tool works good for, is getting off those little BBs. So yeah, you can see she's plenty hot. It definitely melted the metal real good. So yeah, all right, let's give it a try. I'll show you how they work. All right, so let's say you want to weld onto this piece. So all you do is drop it down. And then you just use them like you would regular vice grips. Get them close to where you think the clamping force should be, and then give it a squeeze. That's solid enough to weld. Yeah, I mean, I could move it if I have to, but I mean, I could always go tighter too, but it's not necessary. And let's say maybe you wanted to add this piece to it. You can just bring your clamp over here and again adjust it to where you think it needs to be. Then give it a squeeze, and that's that. I love doing these projects, guys, because you know, you don't have to go out and spend thousands of dollars on like a name brand fab table and going out and getting name brand clamps. And you know, especially for you guys that are just starting out as a beginner welder, these are great projects for that. So like, what, you know, if your project, it's not like you're building a trailer. What if this fails? You know, what is the worst that's going to happen if this fails? Your weld breaks, right? And then you'll know that you need to try harder next time or do better. That's kind of the great part behind this, is that, you know, we got $3.99 for the clamps as of right now at Harbor Freight. I think maybe these shoulder bolts, I don't remember, you know, $2, $3 a piece. Less than $10. I just built a fixture table clamp, and it's going to work as good as any fixture table clamp that you'd buy, in my opinion. So you don't have to go out and spend a whole lot of money to have something that's functional and usable and works well. I know a lot of you are, you know, hardcore hobby welders, and some of you are looking to get into this, but you don't really know where to start or what you should really be spending your money on. I think that this is a great piece of kit. This little small table, you can pretty much build everything. I've built trailers on this little fab table using the table as a 90-degree, you know, this fixture table, using it to mark out my 90 degrees and then tack everything together and just keep spinning everything around, you know, clockwise till I get all my corners 90 degrees. This works great for that. And like I said, there's videos on how to build this kit and how to make everything square and build a template. I'll show you how you do it. To build these clamps back here, these F clamps, these are really nice. I don't have anything on this, but this is pretty straightforward. This was from a recent video that I just needed it. So that's a piece of old bed rail with a piece of flat plate on top, and you can just use that to clamp down round surfaces to something else if you need to. Yeah, so I hope this helped some of you beginner welders, and that just gives you an idea that you don't have to spend a whole lot of money to get some quality products and quality tools. And that's all there is to it, guys. I want to thank you for watching. Thank you guys for tuning in. If you're wondering what I'm working on before it makes it up to YouTube, you guys catch me on Facebook and on Instagram. There's new videos every Friday, so be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. I'd really appreciate it if you did. Until next Friday, guys, I will see you then. Take care, stay safe, see ya. Like, comment, subscribe. Bye.